Hi, my name's Eva and welcome to this channel. Today we are doing the 5th edition of a series I have on my channel where I talk about all my favorite things related to sexuality, sexual health, and relationships. Today we are talking about some art, some events, and some media, and I'm very excited to show it to you. So let's do it. So let's jump right into it with some art. And the first piece of art that is one of my favorites recently is one by the amazing embroidery human at Cult Embroidery. And it is this embroidery loom, and it's basically, if someone asked me, choose one piece of art to describe your aesthetic, I think this would be it. Because you know, we have some sexuality, some greenery. That's really all I'm going for here. The next pieces of art are actually some pins that I got during Playground conference, which I will talk about later. The first two are from the creators L'amour propre, and they have these little like name tag pins. But one of them says she, her, and I'm really excited to wear these at academic conferences. I feel like it's a really easy and like fashionable way to display your pronouns and make safer spaces. The other one says support sex workers because, you know, it's just a good thing to remind people that you should always be doing that. My last pin that I have is one that I got at the feminist sex toy store, Good For Her. This adorable pin, but it says orgasms are for pussies, and there's a picture of a vulva. Obviously orgasms are for all sorts of genitals, but you know, in society we tend to not focus on the fact that they're also for vulvas. So yeah, it's a good thing to remind people of. My last art favorite is a bralette. Is it a flag? And it's from the company Betty Fatale, which is run by a fashion student based out of Toronto. Their marketing and all of the stuff that they make is super inclusive of larger bodies, fat bodies, and I was really happy with this fabric because I got it right after I came back from Playground. And as you might not be able to tell, I don't wear a lot of bright pink, but a lot of the femmes that I was hanging out with during Playground definitely wear a lot of pink and sparkles, so it's a cool way to remind me of that experience. Moving on to events, you are probably not surprised that I'm going to be talking about Playground. I have my little lanyard here so I can remember it. And Playground was amazing. If you don't know, it's a sexuality conference, and it's not super academic, but it has a lot of focus on like sex education. So I went to some amazing workshops. Some of my favorites included one about porn literacy by Kate St. Clair, which absolutely blew my mind. She talked about a lot of like sociology research to back up her ideas about how we can teach about porn. I will link everybody that I've talked about in the description. I also went to an amazing workshop about negotiation and sexual communication skills. If you want to see a video all about that, please comment below because I want to share some of the awesome skills that I learned with you guys. I also went to an awesome workshop about how to include trans pleasure and experiences into sex education, which was amazing and super duper informative. Again, if you want to follow any of the presenters on Twitter or if they have Instagram, I'll link them all in the description. But my other event favorites are kind of pre-favorites in advance of them happening. One of them is sex blogger Red Hot Suze's blog relaunch party, which is happening towards the end of March. I am so excited. She has been working so hard on it, and there's going to be sex toy giveaways, and it's just going to be an amazing, beautiful, joyous time. Some other pre-event favorites are the research presentations that I'm going to be doing later this year. I'm doing a research presentation for International Women's Day, and I'm going to be talking about my undergrad thesis, how undergraduate courses actually help students learn more about consent and sexual communication. Another favorite, I'm going to be presenting my first ever workshop at the Guelph Sexuality Conference in June. And I'm going to be talking about how we can communicate science from academic papers to the world. That is also super duper exciting. The last category of things I want to talk about is media, specifically kind of related to politics. If you don't follow me on Twitter, you might not know that I'm pretty invested in politics and Canadian politics because, surprisingly, sexuality is political and it's all kind of related. So if you are Canadian or if you want a larger scope of political discourse, because we are very focused on American politics, then you should check out these two things. The first one is a podcast, and it is by Canada Land. It's called Commons. They are journalist humans, and they talk about politics in Canada. it's important and informative. One episode that I listened to recently, which I really liked, is called Our Miseducation, the Erasure of Blackness in Canadian Schools. And I think this is really important because a lot of the time Canada kind of positions itself as super multicultural and there's no issues here, but that's definitely not true. So yeah, I would definitely recommend checking it out and listening to all the other episodes of the podcast. The second media favorite that I want to share is CBC Indigenous, and it is an off-branch of the Canadian Broadcasting Company, which is a big news outlet in Canada, but it focuses on Indigenous issues in Canada. And if you don't know, Canada has a pretty terrible history of putting Indigenous students in residential schools and erasing their culture, and also putting people in the welfare system and removing them from their families. And there's still a lot of terrible things that are happening to Indigenous communities in Canada. And that's a really important part of news and understanding the world around you. So if you care about that, I would definitely recommend checking out CBC Indigenous. That is all for me today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and leave a comment letting me know what some of your favorites are recently. And if you have any recommendations for sexuality or political things that I should check out too, subscribe if you aren't already. That's all for me. Have a lovely day.